How you doing? This is Coach DeCarlo. And today we're going to be discussing Neville Goddard's A State Akin to Sleep. How you doing? This is Coach DeCarlo. Today we're going to be talking about A State Akin to Sleep, a Neville Goddard technique. Neville says this: for example, suppose I want a new home, but had no money. But I still know what I want. Without taking anything into consideration, I would make as lifelike a representation of the home that I would like, with all the things in it that I want. And then, this night, as I go to bed, I would, in a state, a drowsy, sleepy state, the state that borders upon sleep, I would imagine that I am actually in such a house, that were I to step off the bed, I would step upon the floor of that house. Were I to leave this room, I would enter into the room that is adjacent to my imagined room in that house. And while I am touching the furniture and feeling it to be solidly real, and while I am moving from one room to another in my imaginary house, I would go sound asleep in that state. And I know that in a way that I could not consciously devise, I would realize my house. I have seen this work time and time again. Neville Goddard, How to Use Your Imagination. So what are we saying? Neville says this: suppose that my desire is a house, and I had no money. What I would do is begin to imagine myself being in such a house before going to bed in a drowsy state, not sleep, in a drowsy state akin to sleep. I would see myself moving around in that house in my imagination. So say that it was a person that you were interested. You would see yourself with that person and the things that you would do with that person in your imagination before going to bed. Say it was more money. A lot of times people think that they want $1 million, but what they want is not $1 million, but what $1 million can buy. So what you would begin doing is seeing yourself spending money on the things that you desire. See yourself owning those things, enjoying those things, and as Neville says, it will be brought about in your 3D reality, but you would not know how this is going to take place. So don't try to figure out the how. Just see in your imagination you living in the desired state, doing what it is that you desire. He also says this: drowsiness facilitates change because it favors attention without effort. But it must not be pushed to a state of sleep in which you are no longer in control of the movements of your attention, but a moderate degree of drowsiness in which you are still able to direct your thoughts. Neville Goddard, consciousness is the only reality. Use wisely the interval preceding sleep. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and go to sleep in this mood. At night, in a dimensionally larger world, when deep sleep falls upon men, they see and play the part that they will later play on earth. Neville Goddard, assumption hardened into facts. What are we saying here? He says, listen, going back to what was stated earlier, he says, drowsiness facilitates the favorable change or the desired change. We often call this drowsiness, or this being in the state, an alpha state. And this is just lower than the state of being awake. But you're in a relaxed state, and this is where your subconscious mind can receive suggestions. You know, often we want to force the suggestion. You can't force it. Mr. Linda will often say you either stroll in or you don't enter in. If you're struggling to try to get into this state, you're working too hard. What you have to do is just be in a relaxed state prior to going to sleep and give yourself the suggestion of the thing that you desire to manifest in your life. He says, listen, this is just a moderate degree of drowsiness in which you are still able to direct your thoughts. Neville Goddard's father said what he would often do first thing in the morning was to get in this state, but he would leave his eyes partially open so that he could still be in control of the vision. Neville also says you got to use wisely that time as you're in that relaxed state prior to going to sleep. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. However you would feel having your desire, assume that feeling. Don't come from a place of lack because, of course, the only thing that you can reproduce at that moment is more lack. Neville goes on to say, control your mood as you go to sleep. I cannot find any better way to describe this technique than to call it a controlled waking dream. In a dream, you lose control, but try preceding your sleep with a complete control waking dream. Enter into it as you do in a dream. For in a dream, you are always very dominant. You always play the part. You are always an actor in a dream and never the audience. When you have a controlled waking dream, you are an actor. You enter into the act of the controlled dream, but you do not do it lightly. For you must then reenact it physically in the 3D dimensional world. Neville Goddard, assumptions hardened into facts. We talked about mood previously. He says it's important that you control your mood, how you're feeling. And he says, I can't even describe it any other way than to call it a controlled waking dream. In a dream, you lose control, but try proceeding in this dream with complete control. And like I said, Neville's father said you may want to do this with your eyes partially open. Neville said you must give your attention to what it is that you're seeking to manifest in your life as you focus on the thing that you're seeking to manifest. Don't do it lightly. Always be the actor and not an observer. Often we observe a movie, and the characters in the movie, in the play, they're the actors. You're to become the actor, like in a dream, in your own life. As you begin occupying the state akin to sleep, see yourself doing, being, having the thing that you desire to manifest in your life. As you do this consistently and persistently, what you're going to find is that you will, in fact, manifest the thing that you desire. Lastly, he says, you change your future best when you are in control of your thoughts while in a state akin to sleep. For then effort is reduced to its minimum. Your attention seems to completely relax. And then you must practice holding your attention within that feeling without using force and without using effort. Lull yourself into a deep mood of being what you want to be by either experiencing in imagination what you would experience in reality where you already that which you want to be, or by repeating over and over again the phrase that implies you have already done what you want to do. A phrase such as, isn't it wonderful? As though some wonderful thing had happened to you. Neville Goddard, assumption hardened into fact. Here he says, listen, the best way to change your future is to control your thoughts before entering into this state akin to sleep. But you must do this with minimum effort, and you must be in a relaxed state. Practice holding your attention within the feeling without force, without using effort, and lull yourself into a mood of being what you want to be. He says, first of all, either by experiencing it in imagination or by repeating over and over again. For those who don't believe that Neville uses affirmations, this is, in fact, an affirmation. He says, repeat over and over again the phrase that implies you already have done that which you want to do. He says a phrase something as simple as, isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful? As though something wonderful has happened to you. So Neville did Also use affirmations. And I only say that because I know a lot of times people are opposed to affirmations, but creators, you have to do what works for you. And in this state akin to sleep, you may be able to carry it out in imagination and imagine, like Neville did earlier, moving from one room to another. But if you're not able to do that, grab hold of a simple phrase as simple as, isn't it wonderful, as though you already have that thing that you desire to have. And if you do this, what you're going to do is find that you're very successful in manifesting what it is you desire as you practice a state akin to sleep. This is Coach DeCarlo saying, have a great and abundant day. You now have the tools necessary to successfully utilize Neville Goddard's A State Akin to Sleep. But remember this, that only you can create your perfect world. Not God, not man. Only you can create your perfect world. This is Coach DeCarlo saying, have a great and abundant day.